I'm Tonya McGrath. It's season 2 of the PowerPLAY, and we are kicking off with the Museum of Fine Arts artist in residence Rob Stull to discuss his historic role, the first ever Boston local artist to be featured on the entrance to the MFA in 150 years. Rob Stull is not only writing the future, he's making it. The artist and my friend Rob Stull on the season premiere of the PowerPLAY coming up next.
From the studios at Hull Bay Productions, this is the PowerPLAY.
Welcome to season 2 of the PowerPLAY. I am your host, Tonya McGrath. This season, we are happy to announce the introduction of a video component to our show. So not only can you listen to the PowerPLAY wherever you subscribe to podcasts, including iHeartRadio and now on Pandora Podcasts, yay! But you can also watch our interviews on our Hull Bay Productions media channel on YouTube. Simply go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel and watch today and upcoming episodes of the PowerPLAY. You can also go to thepowerplayshow.com and listen to last season's episodes, as well as listen and watch this season's episodes. It's all very exciting, and I am thrilled to kick off season 2 in the same way we premiered last year with my guest and friend, renowned artist Rob Stull. Rob has had a very busy 2020 despite COVID, from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum to the Mural Project to be featured on the façade of the Museum of Fine Arts, the first ever local artist to do so. The artist, my friend, Rob Stull. Welcome back to the PowerPLAY.
What's up, G? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And what a year your last year was for you. And we're going to get into all of that. But I just wanted to start off and just, how are you? How has this whole pandemic, affected you? How are you doing? Just talk about you.
Well, let me catch my breath. Wow, what a crazy year for everybody. Huh?
Yeah. To say the least.
There were some bright moments. The interesting thing about COVID and just the whole lockdown and quarantine situation we were all living through, it really forced us all to just kind of pause. Mm-hmm. And it forced us to be introspective and reflective. And that's hard to do with the hustle and bustle of everyday life and work and family and all that stuff. So to be forced to do that, I think was a great opportunity for us to really hone in on what's truly important and fine tune those aspects of our lives that we probably never would have gotten to because we're so busy.
Right, right. And I've known you a long time, and so I kind of describe you as an introvert. My son is also an introvert, so I got him a T-shirt for Christmas that said social distancing. I've been preparing for this my entire life. For you, I'm an extrovert, so I've kind of gone a little stir crazy at times. But for you, I imagine that at least mentally, this was just pretty normal for you.
In the beginning, it really was.
Yeah.
And most of my creative friends and artist friends, we were like, wow, this quarantine thing. I mean, this is how we live our lives anyway. I mean, we're freelance artists. I mean, we barely make it out of the studio. So this wasn't a real big culture shock for us. But then as time went on and you saw the real impact of, from, social aspects and economic aspects and it really changed so many aspects of our lives, or I would say so many aspects of our lives have been forever changed because of this whole experience, and we're not finished with it yet. We're not out of the woods yet. So I think it did, for me, inspire some positive changes in my life.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, just being more aware and more knowledgeable, and also the news that we were getting about the best ways to take care of ourselves and move forward in these times. I don't listen wholeheartedly to everything that I hear on the news. I apply my own common sense. I think that's a luxury and a responsibility that we have as adults. So I would take the information that's out there and just apply my own common sense to it. And I think that's how I kept a level head, didn't overthink a whole lot of things, and kind of stayed in like a realm of reality. When a lot of people were really starting to wig out and lose their minds.
Right. I do want to start off with one of your first major achievements since we last spoke, and that was your selection to the luminaries as part of the neighborhood salon at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. First, describe what that is and how did this all come to be?
Well, it's something that they do I think they've been doing it for the last 4 years. The Salon Luminaries program was facilitated by Ria Vedro and Luana Morales. And they basically, what it was we met 4 times. We had 4 different sessions throughout the year. So we're luminaries from, it's 2021. So we were 2019 to 2020. And I kind of feel like we got hijacked by COVID. COVID sort of dismantled our last live meeting and gathering. And basically what it is we speak on sort of like shared topics or interests. And we kind of get to know each other as individuals. I mean, the group I was with, I was already kind of already had a introduction to them. I was aware of them just from being in the community and the really incredible work that they do. So there were a few people I'd never met before, but everybody there I was familiar with, like incredible visual artist named Imagine, Sinea Shestra, Matt Zaramba, amazing visual artist, Keith Maskell.
Love Keith. Keith's been on the show. Keith is he's incredible. Yeah, he's an actor and a writer. And Liza Zayas. So there were amazing people. And what kind of happened, it was sort of like a natural evolution. We all kind of became family, I mean, it's one thing to be supportive of each other just because you're aware of each other from the community and you do that thing that artists do. But then it's another thing to kind of do it on a real human level. And that's kind of what happened real organically. In each session, it would feature a different luminary. And we had the choice to present our work in any format that we wanted to. So Gene Appleton, I think that's his last name. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. But incredible dancer. He did an incredible performance piece. It was just in that sort of like small little room that we would gather from week to week. And really gives you a window inside of those individuals. So it was interesting. You really looked forward to each session and each presenter. So by the last one, we were like we are now. We were doing everything online, and so it was cool. It was fun to see everybody again. It was kind of postponed. We weren't really sure if we were even going to have a last session, right?
But we did, and I didn't really present my work in the way that I would have liked to had we met physically in person. But it was nice. So it was sort of like a little melancholy vibe where we knew that was the last one. And I'm speaking for myself. I just felt shortchanged. Yeah. COVID just came through and just wrecked so many things for all of us.
Yeah, it did.
That was one of them, but we did have that chance to be together again, so that was cool.
People around the world, of course, know the Gardner Museum because of the infamous heist that happened several decades ago. But for us here in Boston, it really is it's an incredible gem that we have here, and for you to be a part of that, I just think is extraordinary. And I hope at least at some point, maybe in a couple years things will come back to normal, and that you're able to maybe go back as a visit or do something there.
Another cool thing that I don't want to neglect to mention is it's a real trip to be working with these cultural institutions, and they were resources for me. Gardner Museum, when I was at museum school, it was right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, these are places that I frequented, as a student, and then to have like a professional relationship with them so many years later, it's really it's a full circle moment.
Yeah,
but it's also very rewarding, as a local artist too.
I want to now talk about the Mural Project, because this is kind of like, leading up to our, whoa moment here. But I understand that you and Pro Black, Rob Gibbs, aka Rob Gibbs, you met with Dr. Makiba McCrary from the MFA, and from there, this Mural Project was born. So talk about the Mural Project, and what was that meeting like, and how did it all come about?
Yeah, that's the crew right there. Big shout out to Makiba McCrary and Rob, Pro Black Gibbs, and Nadia, and Melissa, and Janet, and Annie, and the whole crew. You talk about family. I mean, we really became a solid team. But how it really came about was, I'm a firm believer in the universe, and I try to listen to what she says most of the time, even when I don't understand her. So but you can't deny how certain things just align, and it's not by accident.
Right.
So in this case, Pro Black, for any of your listeners who are familiar, incredible artist, visual artist, muralist, teacher, just visionary, just total visionary. I've known him for several years, since he was a teenager. And he has a mural series that's called Breathe Life. Mm-hmm. And the first one is on the side of a building in Dorchester. I always forget the street, but it's of a little boy who's sort of, those old Nintendo cartridges?
Yeah.
Where you would they would get dusty from time to time, and you would blow through them. And so he's kind of doing like a throwback thing with this little boy. He was doing his second installment of Breathe Life, which was actually Breathe Life 3. So he did the third one before he did the second one. Mm-hmm. So the third one was of the little girl and the little boy. So there's brother and sister. So the little girl was on the little boy's shoulders. And that was across the street from the piano factory. So he was having like a dedication, if you will, to that mural. At the same time, Makiba, she hadn't been at the museum for, I think she'd been there inside of a year. And there was a big racial incident that happened there. But what she also did was hosted roundtable discussions. Mm-hmm. So this particular roundtable discussion was with a whole bunch of, artists, teachers, professors, activists from the community. So I saw a whole bunch of my friends and homies there. Myself, Larry Pierce, Paul Goodnight, we were all there at Makiba's roundtable discussion. So the topic obviously was, how do we move forward in this moment? How do we prevent these incidents from happening at our cultural institutions? They are ours. Right. I think the community forgets that they are ours. As you could well imagine, that filled up, a whole bunch of time of, just ideas and suggestions. But then, before we adjourned, just out of that sort of spirit of supporting each other and letting that group of people know what was going on just over the way, Paul made an announcement, about pro-Blacks mural dedication and blah, blah, blah. So I loaded up my car with as many people as I could fit in there. And then we went over there directly from the MFA. Mm-hmm. So, and that was like a movie premiere. I mean, everybody was there. I mean, it was really crazy. So I think that served as sort of like a spark or the catalyst for what we were to do at the MFA. And I don't know this for certain. I just feel like that vibe and that energy was so thick and just undeniable. So shortly thereafter, and a whole lot of noise was made that day also. So shortly thereafter, Makiba had reached out to me in Pro-Black. And I think the language she was using was mural initiative or mural objective or something like that. And she was like, if we were to do something like that at the MFA, what would it look like involving you two? And what would you need to make it happen or something like that? The kind of communication you get from somebody that instantly lets you know that they're serious.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just from being in entertainment, that you can feel, BS communication and write it off as,
absolutely.
I don't need to chase that because this person clearly doesn't know what they want or who I am. So, but when you get that communication where that person, is serious. So it was like that. And then we met with her, we chopped it up for a good hour or so. And it was one of those situations, and they happen from time to time. And whenever they do, it's always refreshing, where all of the right things are said. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The respect is there. And respect comes in many forms. It comes in respect for your craft, respect for your contributions to your arena, whatever that might be. Respect comes in monetary aspect. So everything just kind of happened the way it needed to happen. And then it kind of became this thing. It wasn't that way from the beginning. We really didn't know what we wanted to do from the very beginning, but that's how it started.
And were there any parameters that were given to you in terms of what this project would ultimately become?
Not really. And that was another refreshing aspect of it. I think Makiba wanted our truest representation or expression of ourselves. And she basically, it's a beautiful thing when people can come together, like different entities can come together, and there's just sort of like this unspoken trust right from the gate, where no, you do what you do, and then I'll do what I need to do on my end to facilitate what you do. Mm-hmm. But I'm not holding your hand through any of this. You guys are the pros. You do what you do. That's so it was that kind of thing. So I think she was kind of hanging back and waiting to see what we came up with. And yeah, it is awesome because there were so many ways. It's like being a kid in a candy store, but just adult. Yeah. So we were just like, wow, there's so many different things or ways we could go with this.
And just touching back on what you referred to earlier for our audience, there was this incident that did happen at the MFA back in 2019. A group of young students from a school in Dorchester went to go visit. There were some racial or racist things that were said or communicated. And it gripped headlines for weeks here. I think it was a turning point, a very good turning point for the MFA. And I think for all Boston institutions, because, one of the statistics that came out was that between 2012, 2018, 81% of the visitors of the MFA were white. And I think that something had to change. They knew that something had to change. This, I think, was all just part of that movement, and you could feel it. And you read about this, and cultural institutions kind of learning how to diversify, but really with things when it comes to art. The reason why it's so important is because art has to reflect all people, and there's so many different forms of art that are important to the cultural existence that we are. And so for you to be and Rob Pro-Black Gibbs to be a part of that, I think is extraordinary, because and also, Dr. McCreary, just her being that open and understanding of what needed to be done.
And thoughtful also. I mean, before it happened, I had received a communication from her because she wanted to do like a running theme of roundtable discussions. And she really wanted to include the creative community in Boston in on those roundtable discussions. So this is obviously pre-COVID, and this was prior to the incident. So she already had created a vibe there that I would assume was different and sort of revolutionary for what would typically happen there.
Kudos to her, kudos to the MFA, but I just leading up to this part of the discussion is you, and you're just kind of crowning achievement here. And I think it's worth repeating so that people understand that you are the first local artist to be featured on the façade, those big long drapes that crown the entrance to the MFA, the first local artist to do so. That enormity must just kind of, I remember calling you, I got chills. I was like, yes, we went to high school together. We've been friends for decades, but still I think I even got a little choked up for you. Just like, wow.
You weren't the only one. What an honor. I think I need to backtrack a little bit to talk about the inspiration of the images that are actually that were made into 25 feet tall banners.
Wow.
So there is this groundbreaking, monumental exhibit at the MFA right now until May of this year, 2021. And it's Basquiat and the hip hop generation. It's called Writing the Future, the hip hop generation. I did what was called an answer to the exhibit, mind you, as being products of hip hop culture that we are, and proudly acknowledge whenever we get it.
Absolutely.
I was well aware of all of the artists that are represented in this exhibition. So this wasn't even something that was officially decided upon when me and Pro-Black had that first meeting with Makiba, but it was something that was in the pipeline for sure. And it also coincided with the 150th anniversary of the MFA. So there was a whole bunch of programming around the anniversary, a lot of programs that got yanked and canceled due to COVID. And for a minute, we didn't know if we were going to survive either, if the Mural Project was going to survive, because there was an element of the Mural Project where Pro-Black was going to be working with Madison Park High kids and Artists for Humanity kids. All of that obviously was scrapped because of the social distancing that we wouldn't have been able to do. So the Basquiat exhibit survived, and the artists that were represented in the show represent an era of the graffiti and visual art aspect of hip hop in New York, like the post 80s era, which is like the best era. So that was when everything was happening. That was when Keith Haring had already blown up. That was when Basquiat had already blown up. And these guys are all contemporaries. So you had Futura, Lady Pink, Toxic, A1, MLZ, Fab Five Freddy, Lee Quinones. What a roster! What a roster!
Absolutely.
To draw inspiration from. So my initial, when given the opportunity to do an answer, my initial attitude was, I want to do something in sort of tribute form, visually, to show what they meant to me, almost like to honor them.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to do it in my way, and I wanted to play around with sort of elements of like how could I jam pack and cram as much information about these artists in single individual pieces without it looking like a big mess, and have it be informative. And then when I finally presented it to Makiba, she loved the idea. And what I did that I found worked was making it personal, and then taking little elements of each artist's sort of story, if you will, and throwing it in there in a collage almost kind of way, but it wasn't traditional collage. I was drawing everything. So I might take the symbol of the New York Transit Authority and throw that in there. That's an instantly identifiable symbol, I believe, recognizable the world over. Or I might take a logo from an old ink company named Flowmaster that all graffiti artists used to, when we used to make our own homemade markers. So little things like that true heads would recognize, but then it's a nod to whoever I'm paying a tribute or an homage to, because they're gonna know what it is also. So that's how I did it. That was my approach. So I did, originally I wanted to do tribute homages to all of the artists represented in the show, but time didn't allow for that. So I narrowed it down, and ultimately there were 5, and I included Pro Black, and I'll get to why I felt it was important and necessary to include him as well. But the 5 were Ramel Z, Lady Pink, Lee Quinones, Basquiat, obviously. I thought Pro Black was significant and important to add because of just what he represents, especially here on a local front, and his contributions to hip hop. You know, Boston has a major chapter in the culture, and, you know, him being sort of representative of that generation right after ours. And now he has all of these disciples that follow him and really look up to him. It's almost like God status. So, and hip hop is so global now, you can almost break it down into regional areas. And there are those individuals from across the country who've made major contributions. So I was saying there's no way you can have an exhibition like this for what it represents in Boston at the MFA and him being a part of the work that we were both doing as artists in residence at the MFA. There's just no way he can't be included.
It's groundbreaking because when you think of hip hop, people don't think Boston, right? But to have this kind of exhibit featuring the amazing talent of you, Pro Black, and how it's so important that this kind of history be seen and understood here in the Boston area, where we're not typically known for that. You know, we're known for the Celtics and for Tom Brady and, you know, for some other kind of things. But why do you think it's so important that this hip hop generation, even though like I'm a skeptic because I'm saying that it's slowly dying because of the crazy music and the things that we're seeing right now, which is not true hip hop. But why was it so important that this be exhibited now, do you think?
I think for all those reasons you just mentioned. I mean, we're individuals of a certain age. So the stuff that's on the radio and being produced now isn't going to appeal to us, and nor should it. So I think it makes it that much more vital and important to have efforts like this to bring people back and remind them where all of this came from, especially when the message is being so horrendously misconstrued.
Yes.
And there's if those kinds of efforts aren't celebrated, this Basquiat exhibition is one example. But if those kinds of efforts aren't being celebrated, then you lose control of your own culture, and then you leave it up to somebody else to define what it is. And it's like, it's a sad state of affairs if the optics suggest that people really don't care if that happens. So it's almost like individuals like myself, like you, like people that really love this and cherish it. It's a responsibility almost.
Yeah.
To grab those opportunities as they present themselves to us, and really reinforce the notion of, how this started? This was youth culture. This is something that was created by teenagers, by 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, and it grew to be this global juggernaut that is infused into every aspect of everyday life.
Absolutely.
And it's seamless now. We're being fed hip hop culture, through television commercials and automobile advertisements and things like that. But I didn't want to not answer your question about the banners, because I kind of But so that the exhibit and the work that I did in tribute and homage form for those artists, that was the inspiration for 3 of the banners that are currently on the MFA's facade, the entrance on Huntington Avenue. And those 3 are Basquiat, obviously, Lady Pink, and Futura. And those are also 3 of my favorites. I like all of them, but it's just something about those 3. So when the idea was brought to me, it was sort of like it was introduced to me as almost like a surprise. So you talk about getting choked up, and I'm just like, well, what is this? It was like a Zoom meeting or something like that. Like, are you in front of your computer monitor? And then, Nakiba shot me this mock-up from design. Janet O'Donoghue and Karen Frascona, they sort of masterminded this whole thing. And when I saw it, I was just like, what is that? Is that real? What are you doing? I mean, they're like, oh, no, it's not there now, but it will be. And then, the conversations leading up to that. And, but my mind was completely blown.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. And we did a photo shoot. There was the Globe covered it. It was well documented. I didn't physically see the banners go up. It really brings home how, not just for me, but for any visual artist, how acknowledgement and respect for your craft and your years of sacrifice and your investment and your contributions and if you're stubborn like me, trying to figure out how this way of life can become your livelihood, and never accepting no for an answer. And you wake up and you're this older person, and sometimes you've realized some of your objectives, and then other times you say, okay, I got this far and I got this much further to go, but it's not daunting, when you've made that decision, and have that conviction to just ride it out. And then something like that happens that most artists don't normally see in their lifetime.
Right.
They can work to something like that, to something of that level of acknowledgement and respect, and still might not see it in their lifetime. Realize it. So I had to kind of collect myself to because it was very emotional for me. It's very emotional.
I have to tell you, so I drove into Boston and I had an appointment in Cambridge, but I went down Huntington Avenue and just turned over, and I just had to stop. And I'm going to get teary-eyed now because it is so huge. And I've followed your work, for decades, and I know how talented you are. I know how brilliant you are. I know how much you love what you do. And just to see that for you was it was just the most incredible thing.
Thank you. Thank you, T, for sure. And I kind of feel like, this for me speaks for all of us in a way, where, especially our kind of close contingency, growing up together, and so many of us, by extension, have gone on to do amazing things in our lives, and we've become very accomplished. And I mean, you just had Billy and Bob on. I mean, they're like an institution.
The Wonder Twins.
Yeah, the whole McLean family, for that matter. But the Wonder Twins, I mean, I remember the Funk Effects from back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's my point. It's like our responsibility to continue to reinforce those aspects and those elements that are real. That and they're living legends. But I feel like those banners going up speaks to all of us and our dedication for what we do, and our passion, our commitment, the resiliency. I just feel like it's I don't know that I'm saying it right, but I just felt that kind of elation where it's my work that's up there, but it's for all of us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
You're so humble because, every time I ask you about one of your incredible achievements, you always bring it back to you are doing this on behalf of all of us. Like we are all kind of a part of this whole movement together. And so your humility is great, but you know what? You get this one. I'm giving this one straight to you. You don't get to share this one.
I'll take it.
What is next for Rob Stull?
I see this time, this COVID pause button reset, and just everything that's happened, within my life, and personal things that have happened. I really see this as a reinvention, and I'm not afraid of that. I think I'm really inspired by it. There have been so many other things that have been almost offshoots of my work with the MFA. We did an amazing documentary called Cosign with me and Pro Black. Local Black-owned film company, Beyond Measure. They did the work. Mm-hmm. And then the museum had them cover and film other projects. Same era, artists from the same era, amazing artist named Say Adams, I mean, black man from the same era as all of these other artists represented in the Basquiat exhibit. He came in to Boston, and then we sort of did a VIP private tour of the exhibit. Marca 27, Victor Quinones, his wife Liza, they have their own company. Marca used to be an art director, one of the main art directors at Converse. He left that to do Street Theory Gallery and then murals for the movement. So that there was a mural collaborative piece that was on the MFA lawn that was a collaboration between Marca, pro-black, amazing artist out of Brooklyn named Sophia Dawson. And then I had minor contributions in there in little graphic elements that I had in my tribute pieces that were placed strategically throughout the piece. But that, and then pro-black also. He had a big black fist in the middle with a red, black, and green bandana around the wrist. It was a female's fist, a woman's fist. And I'm just saying, wow, how far have we come where there is a big black fist on the front lawn of the MFA on Huntington Avenue? That is really beautiful. But all of these things were documented. It was just top notch. I mean, a finely tuned machine. And shout out to Makila McCreary again. While these artists were in town, Beyond Measure did sort of like an open discussion with the co-curator of the Basquiat exhibit, Greg Tate, myself, Say Adams, Marca 27, Liza Quinones, and Sophia Dawson, where we were in an auditorium, socially distanced, spaced out, different aisles. And then Greg Tate was on the stage, and then he was asking us questions. And I don't know how and in what format that material and that content is going to be used, but I'm just sort of illustrating the fact that there was so many things going on that were a partner to and connected to this amazing time and year at the MFA. So, I mean, how can you not be inspired by all of that and being around those individuals? Beyond Measure, also Futura, one of the artists, and Beyond the Right in the Future, he came for a private viewing hosted by the MFA and the other curator of the exhibit, Liz Munzel, and in Beyond Measure filmed that too. So just all of these things, all of this energy, all of this excitement, getting shouted out by Futura and Lady Pink on social media, you know. I mean, come on, that doesn't happen every day. So when I look at what's next for myself, I'm so inspired right now. I mean, just being around, like, you know, genius artists like that. It's inspired a whole lot of things I don't really want to get into a whole lot of detail about within me, that I'm really anticipating what comes next as well. So, and it's going to be, some things will be traditional, the way folks are used to seeing me, and then others aren't. And I think that's very important because we have to continue to evolve. And I'm evolving. I'm a work in progress, I always say. So wow. I'm evolving, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter as much as anyone else.
You know, the Power Play ends with asking our guests 3 questions. My first question, this is kind of like a speed round that we do. What has motivated you creatively in this COVID era?
I've been saying this. I don't know that I created this saying, but I've been saying this a lot this past year. I got plenty of time, but no time to waste. And I think, again, being forced to hone in and recognize what's real and what's important. That's motivation enough. I think to be the kind of person I am, to be a creative person, whether you're a visual artist or in any area of entertainment. This was a gift. I mean, there's a whole lot of heartache that came with it, with the loss of life, and just ways we almost felt upended. And we've all suffered loss, all of us, in one way or another this past year. If you can't gain as a creative person, if you can't gain inspiration, I mean, this time to pause and be reflective was such a gift. I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
That I think people did one of two things. They either squandered it and didn't really know how to receive it, or it really energized them. And for me, it was the latter, for sure.
Me as well. I think I've worked harder this past year, or 2020, I should say, than I have in a really long time.
I would agree.
My second question, what is the one thing about Rob Stull that most people don't know? Tell me one thing about you that most people don't know.
My first thought was, I got to make this juicy. I think I just want to keep it real. I've been binge watching the hell out of some TV. Like this past month or two. So it's like crime dramas. I don't know that people would look at me, people that know me would ever think that I would be into crime dramas.
I love them.
So
I've been watching.
I don't want to totally put myself out there and drop titles, but all of them
I will. I've been binge watching Ray Donovan. I've been binge watching Bosch. I've been binge watching. I love Dateline. That's still my favorite show on television. Yeah, that's really all I do. I don't really do comedies and dramas and stuff, but anything that has to do with that. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm not a big TV person. Like if it's not like sports or whatever, then I'm not really watching TV. I'd rather listen to music while I'm doing my work. So, but I confess I've been binge watching Underground.
All right, finally, finish this sentence. Art for me is
life itself, breathing, everything. It's everything.
Rob Stull, the first local artist to be featured on the facade of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being our season 2 premiere guest. Like I said,
how can I say no, T?
This is going to be a tradition for us. I'm going to have you on the premiere for each season.
Tony McGrath calls. You in for that call?
Listen, the best wishes for you in 2021. You are doing it. I am one of your biggest fans. I'm in the Rob Stull fan club. So you just keep doing everything you're doing. God bless you.
Right back at you. Right back at you.
Once COVID restrictions ease, you can visit the MFA to see the exhibit, Writing the Future, Basquiat and the Hip Hop Generation at the Museum of Fine Arts from now through May 2021. Simply go to mfa.org to get more information on COVID restrictions and read about this incredible exhibit. As always, you can listen to past episodes of the Power Play wherever you subscribe to podcasts, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, and now Pandora Podcasts. You can also watch our interviews on YouTube. Simply search Hull Bay Productions Media Channel. And remember, we air on BroncoEyeRadio.com each Saturday at 5 p.m. So be sure to tune in to the Power Play show on Thursdays for a new episode wherever you subscribe to podcasts or at thepowerplayshow.com, or listen to us on BroncoEyeRadio.com each Saturday at 5 p.m. Until next time, I'm your host, Tonya McGrath. Put on a mask and be kind to one another.